going to be done by request. I had a couple people jump in the Whatnot stream a couple weeks ago. Just being all honest, it's just been really crazy couple of weeks, you know, regular job, all that kind of stuff. So I'm finally getting around to it. It's Saturday night. It's supposed to be stormy out. We aren't doing nothing else. So one of the things that I was asked for is a deck tech on one of my decks that I had made called Geth, Thane of Contracts. Now, I want to let you know, just going to show this here for you. That's EDA Trek. 54 decks. He's ranked 890. And with this card, I could get consistent turn 5, turn 6 wins. We're going to go through all that. You guys can make your own decisions on whether or not this deck would be a powerhouse or if it would just be poopy. So let me know down below. I enjoy finding really weird commanders and building them and trying to make them as efficient as possible. This is going to be the start. If you guys like this, we'll do more of these, and I'll show you all my weird commanders that I've built, from Blanca, Kahira, Hoffrey Ghostforge, Durnon of the Yawning Wing with the background Passionate Archaeologist. Just all sorts of different ones that I've done over the last few years, having fun experimenting. But if you like it, let me know by hitting that like, subscribe, and that thumbs up button. Make sure you check the description for different links for Patreon, whatnot, whatever else we have going on. Hope you have a good one. All right, here we are. We're going to talk about Geth, Thane of Contracts. Let's just read them a little bit. Other creatures you control get -1/-1. He's 1, a black and a black. Tap, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains if this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate only as a sorcery. Cost 1, a black and a black to originally cast him, and he is a Phyrexian zombie. So, you may ask yourself, D. Hurley, how is it that we're going to take Geth, Thane of Contracts, and make a deck that's worthwhile playing if all my creatures are getting -1/-1? Well, let's go through that a little bit. So, first thing we're going to talk about is some of the less expensive cards that are in here. I don't think we need to talk about mana base. There are a couple cards in the mana base that we will talk about that I think really help accelerate it, but it's mono black. So throw a bunch of swamps, whatever things you can get in there, Bajuka Bogs. Try to avoid them being tapped. You know, Cabal Coffers, Urborg, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, be creative with it if you want. Really what we want to do is we want to figure out a way of value to get the combo that we need off, right? So first things we're going to start off with is we're going to need some creatures that as soon as we cast them, they're going to get -1/-1 as soon as they enter, and they're going to generate some value for us. When we get that, it changes the game a little bit for us because we can keep doing things on there, right? And as long as we have Geth and a way to protect Geth, or even just being able to recast Geth multiple times in the game, we'll be okay. So let's talk about some of the less expensive cards that go into this first, and then we'll move into the ones that kind of get a little bit more expensive, and we'll see where it's at. Remember to make sure that you put all your comments down below. If you make a better version of this that can win even faster, please tell me about it. I enjoy this. Like I said in the intro, I absolutely love weird commanders that nobody wants to build. All right, so here we go. First one up is Vengeful Strangler. He can't block. When he dies, returns to the battlefield transformed under your control, attached to a target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. His transformation side says, enchant creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, enchant permanent's controller sacrifices a non-land permanent and loses 1 life. You may say to yourself, that card sucks. It does, but you can be mean about it, right? You can play it on turn 2, pass turn, opponent casts their commander, turn 3, cast Geth, put this on their commander, so they have to sacrifice it immediately turn 3, or you can hold it off a little bit. You can really put it on a bigger threat that they may not want to get rid of and be a little bit mean with it, right? Kind of just to slow their game down. We have a life-linking Venomcrawler. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Venomcrawler. Well, if everything on our board's getting -1/-1, this thing is probably going to get a whole bunch of +1/+1s. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. All right. Underworld Hermit. Create a number of 1/1 green squirrel tokens equal to your devotion to black. We're going to set that one off to the side, because that pairs great with Falkenrath Noble. Whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Look at that. We have a big board presence. It's a little bit late in the game. We got a lot of black out there. Create 10 1/1 squirrels. Everyone loses 10. You gain 10. You got Marauding Blight-Priest out there. Each opponent loses 11. You got Venomcrawler out there. You get to put 10 +1/+1 counters on it. All sorts of stuff like that in here, right? We got Dreadhound. Whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put in, each opponent loses 1 life. Goes again in that pile. Vindictive Vampire. Deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. We got Cult Conscript. Can be returned to the battlefield from the graveyard only if a non-skeleton creature died under our control this turn. Here's one of those value cards. Callous Bloodmage. Create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life, so you can cast this, kill it, cast the pest, boom, gain 1 life if need be. You can draw a card and lose a life, or you can exile somebody's graveyard. Pretty nice. We have a Profane Memento. This might be one of the ones that people say, hey, why is that in there? Well, you know, I just take all situations into account. You know, you're playing a self-mill opponent. Why not gain some value off of them, huh? I'm sure there's other things in there that you can comment on that would be much better than that. We also have some, you know, destroy target creature enchantment, you lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. We always want to have some interaction in our decks. And then we also have put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. You may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. All right. So those are the relatively inexpensive cards that go into this deck. But I think if you stop and you look at what you're doing there with them, you can see, okay, I see where this is going. We're going to play an aristocrat strategy. Yes. It is an aristocrat strategy where we're going to be killing our own things and getting value off of it. Now, excuse me. One of the things that people don't necessarily think of when you sit down to play Geth is, how are you going to do this? Because if a creature has a 1/1, it dies right away. Well, we're going to get to that just in a little bit here. Let's go over now some of the more expensive cards that we play in this deck. First off, we have Bitter Ordeal. Search target player's library for a card and remove that card from the game. Then that player shuffles his or her library Gravestorm. Gravestorm says, when you play this spell, copy it for each permanent put into a graveyard this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. We're going to just set that bad boy right there. We also have Extraplanar Lens. We're in a monocolor deck. Extraplanar Lens is awesome. Exile one of your swamps. Whenever land with the same name as the imprinted card is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. Excellent, excellent card. We're going to set that bad boy right back there. Of course, we have Cabal Coffers. We all know what that does. We also have Archon of Cruelty. If we get a little bit further into this game and we really need some help, let us get some life back. Let us get some cards. Really, this whole deck comes down to getting the cards that you need onto the battlefield, just like any Magic deck. I know that sounds stupid to say, but in particular, this one has preset moves that it wants to make. So this will help us get to that card combo that we really need, right? Dictate of Erebos. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Okay, we're going to be sacrificing lots of stuff, so let's clear off everyone's board. This is Dark Ritual, just Japanese alt art. Just a favorite card of mine. Black Market Connections. Again, we know the value of this. We have Vampiric Tutor. Go find our card that we need. We have Entomb, which is almost better than Vampiric Tutor in here because we want stuff in our graveyard. Demonic Tutor. Again, we know what that does. We have Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Basically, the Dreadhound, the Vindictive Vampire, the Falkenrath Noble, this is a permanent, so also Dictate of Erebos, so you sack 1 of your things, wham bam, they're sacking 2 of their things, right? We got Damnation just in case as a emergency. Pitiless Plunderer, create a treasure every time something dies, get that value. Opposition Agent, really to control the game. Ayara, First of Locthwain. Whenever another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. We're going to be doing that a lot. Reanimate. Fantastic. And then, of course, the Jet Medallion. Black spells cost you 1 less to play. I mean, those are really and truthfully the workhorses of this deck. Now, let's get into the meat and the bones. We got Buried Alive. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle. So on turn 3, you could get this. And that's important to know. If that's in your starting hand, it's important to know what you can do with that. We have Dismember, Phyrexian Obliterator, Takenuma, the Abandoned Mire, as one of those extra lands that isn't a swamp. Knight's Whisper, Graveyard Trespasser, because whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target creature card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Again, we're just shutting stuff down. Whenever another creature you control dies, Sanguinary Priest deals 1 damage to any target. All right, getting more value. We got Raise Dead. Bring it back to your hand. This is actually really good if you're going to start the combo as some protection. At the beginning of your upkeep, Creeping Bloodsucker deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain life equal to this way. It's just a good card in black. This is Village Rites, Japanese alt art. Erebos the Bleak-Hearted. Whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. All right, we need to draw a bunch of cards. We're up there in life total because we got some of our life linkers out. Let's just sack some stuff and draw a bunch of cards, right? Darkness. We need 1 extra turn. Let's pull out that Darkness. Unmarked Grave. Search your library for a non-legendary card. Put that card in the graveyard and then shuffle. Let's put that over here. Titan Hunter. Let's make everybody pay for not sacrificing their own things. You know, we're making the game a little bit harder on ourselves by taking -1/-1s for everything else. So why not make everyone take a little bit of damage for not sacrificing stuff? We have Sifter of Skulls. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion token into the battlefield. It has sacrifice this creature, add colorless to your mana pool. So we can generate mana if Geth isn't out. If Geth is out and we kill something that is a non-token, boom, we get more. Here we go. Here is actually somebody who does really well in this deck. Sengir the Dark Baron. Whenever another creature dies, put 2/1/1 counters on Sengir the Dark Baron. Whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total. Well, we're going to be killing a bunch of stuff. Force of Despair. Playing somebody who has a lot of tokens coming on the board. A lot of big green stompy creatures. That's alright. Exile one of your cards and just destroy all of them that enter the battlefield that turn. Save everyone. Final Parting. 5 mana. Little expensive, but search your library for 2 cards. Put one in your hand and the other into the graveyard. Then shuffle your library. Malakir Rebirth. Excellent card. It's a MDFC, so you can't play it as a land in those extreme circumstances. However, I would choose not to, and I would use it as protection for Geth. Black Market, you're killing a bunch of stuff. And everyone else is killing a bunch of stuff. Might as well get a bunch of swamps for it. Priest of Gix. You play this, have one of your value engines out. It dies right away. You also get your 3 mana back. And then you can cast something else. Veto. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Unearth. As we can see, if we run through the CMC cost, not a lot of things cost more than 3 or 4, so this is actually an excellent card in here. Of course, we have a Soul Ring to cast some things early. Sir Conrad, whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. Butcher of Malakir, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Read the Bones, scry 2, then draw 2, you lose 2. Headless Rider, whenever another non-token zombie you control dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature. We're going to set him off to the side. Blitzwing, again, it might be one of those that doesn't need to be in here. You could replace easily, but at the beginning of your end step, if target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn, if no life is lost this way, convert him. We don't ever want to convert him. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. Harvester of Souls. Gravecrawler, who is an all-star in this deck. And we'll read Gravecrawler here in just a second. We have Bontu the Glorified. Bontu the Glorified can't attack or block unless a creature under your control died this turn. Sacrifice another creature, scry 1. Each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. It's doing the thing we want it to do, and we're getting some value. Could there be a better card? Absolutely, but I love Bontu. Varagoth. He's a death-touchy demon with a boast that says Demonic Tutor. My personal opinion is a lot of people don't want to throw stuff in front of this. It's only 2 damage. If you have the mana to do it and you can boast him, say you get 2 cards out of it. Say you get 1 card out of it. Did you pay for that 3 mana cost? I think so. Blood Pact, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Tragic Slip, we're always having things die, so go ahead and get something -13 and get rid of those horrible other creatures on the board. Nyx Lotus, choose a color, add that amount of mana to your devotion. I'm in a single color, so I'm going to play Nyx Lotus. Bastion of Remembrance does what a bunch of other ones does. Creates a 1/1 human soldier, and then whenever a creature I control dies, each opponent loses 1, and you gain 1. Sounds like a theme. And then, just to clear off some board, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers they control. So that's kind of the body. Couple other cards to note that I played with in here. Nykthos Shrine. That was a big one, you know, being able to add mana of any devotion. I think that's pretty much it. But now, let's get to the part that everyone wants to talk about. The combo. So, couple different dream scenarios. And I have noticed when Moderator is building a deck, Moderator has a tendency to say, well, if I get this and this and this and this out, then this happens. Isn't that awesome? And you know, when I'm building a deck, I tend to catch myself doing the same thing. Well, if I get these 12 cards all together, I think that this is a combo you can't stop. And I'm probably right. But I have to get all those cards together. In this one, the main combo is going to be our best friend here, Pitiless Plunderer and Gravecrawler. Yes, I have a graded copy of Gravecrawler. And yes, it was this deck that made me buy and get this graded copy of Gravecrawler. It is a secret layer version. If I still had this deck, I would have cracked it out of here and played with this version. But I retired the deck, so I'm not going to. So Pitiless Plunderer says, whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. This says, Gravecrawler can't block. Don't care. You may cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. So if we rewind, which we're not going to, and we look at Geth, he is a Phyrexian zombie. So all I need is 1 black mana available, and this in my graveyard, this in my hand, this in play, with Pitiless Plunderer out, and I can infinitely cast the Gravecrawler. Now, you say to yourself, I can infinitely cast it, so what does that do? It does nothing. You have to find a different way, right? So let's bring in all of our other friends here. So we know we have our main combo piece right there. So let's bring in Headless Rider. Whenever another non-token zombie you control dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So I think I forgot to mention right here that if you're going to try and create infinite zombies or use any of the other cards to kind of combo off, you're definitely going to need to add sack outlets into the deck. Phyrexian Altar, Ashnod's Altar, Altar of Dementia, all great cards that you could add into this deck, and there would be absolutely zero issue with doing that, and you could fire off another combo like the infinite zombies I'm talking about here.
Well, he's out on the battlefield. Maybe he's not. Depends. He might be dead because of Geth, right? But he's also a zombie. Maybe somebody killed Geth, and he's no longer around. Doesn't matter that he's a 1/1 now. You still control a zombie, and you can make infinite 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Let's say you get Geth back out. You still have infinite 1/1s. There's a win. Let's come back to our friend Bitter Ordeal. Remember that thing, Gravestorm, that we talked about? I'm going to cast Gravecrawler infinitely. And then I'm going to infinitely copy Bitter Ordeal and exile everyone's library. And then I'm going to pass turn. I don't even need to kill you. I'm just going to make it to where you can't draw anything. Let's remember our other friends that we had that can make this work. We have Vindictive Vampire. I'm going to infinitely cast Gravecrawler from my graveyard. And I'm going to deal one damage to each opponent. And I'm going to gain 1 life. Infinitely. I'm going to make a bunch of tokens. They're all going to die. We already talked about that. Dreadhound. Whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put in the graveyard from a library, each opponent loses 1 life. Falkenrath Noble, or another creature dies. Target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So you say to yourself, well, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, But you have to have all those cards. Well, let's just reverse back just a little bit here. And let's just see how many different ways we can get stuff into our hand. We can get stuff into our graveyard.
I also wanted to throw this one out there that goes and finds an artifact with a triggered or activated mana ability. I'm going to throw a picture up of it here. It only says mana ability. So that little sentence right there makes it go find a whole lot more stuff. It finds a basic land if you're really in desperation mode, and it's colorless. So it can go into any deck. I mean, the first thing that everyone's going to think about is, oh, I'm going to pay 2, then pay 1, tap and sack this to go find a Soul Ring. It doesn't have to be a Soul Ring. Phyrexian Altar, Ashenod's Altar, Extraplanar Lens. You can find all of those inside this deck alone, let alone if you wanted to add in something like Biotransference or Encroaching Mycosynth that changes everything in your deck and in your play field into artifacts. Then you can really go start finding things. Imagine you're playing blue-green and you want to go find Gwenna so you can start getting that untap ability and growing Gwenna. If you play Encroaching Mycosynth, then play Moonsliver Key, Gwenna is now an artifact creature which has a mana ability that you can put onto the battlefield. I just wanted to point that out. Someone had pointed it out to me, and I think that is some explosive news because that's a single $1 for that card. I'm sure you can find them for much cheaper. But just make sure you check out that card. It's from Innistrad Midnight Hunt or Innistrad Double Feature. You can pick them up fairly cheaply, and they can fit and slot into any deck that you want to go find some artifacts with some mana abilities. And like I said, worst case scenario, go get that basic land that you might need.
And there are more. You could add in Beseech the Queen, which is a 3-drop tutor. You could add in Phyrexian Arena, which is letting you draw each turn. There's so many different ways you could do this that it's almost hilarious how efficient it really is when you start building it and getting it all squared away. So let's just take a look at these. I need to be careful because I have my smoke sleeves on these, and they have a tendency to fold in on each other when I do this. So we have something in the graveyard. They're going to Bajuka Bog us, let's say. Can't use that one. But you want a way, so that's one update that I could use in here. We want a way to protect our graveyard, right? Or protect whatever cards are in that graveyard, because we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with it. We got Raised Dead to bring something back to our hand. We're going to draw cards and we're going to lose 2 life. We're going to search. There we go, Demonic Tutor. We're going to draw and scry. We're going to return stuff again. We're going to find 2, put 1 into our hand and 1 into the graveyard. Draw 2. Draw 2. Mill. We don't want to cast Takenuma or play Takenuma. Here we go. Here are the big ones. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards. Put them into your graveyard. Then shuffle. Well, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Use Geth's ability. Bring back Pitiless Plunderer. Very nice. Unmarked Grave. Search your library for a non-legendary card. Put that card into your graveyard. Then shuffle. So we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 inexpensive ways to turn around and put things into your graveyard. Now let's talk about the expensive ways. But we're going to our hand. Demonic Tutor. This one's going to the graveyard. Play it on turn 1 if you want. Vampiric Tutor. On top of your library. And then obviously we're just creating treasures and we can draw cards if we want to with this. But it's a good way to shuffle through everything and get there. But that's about where it stands, everyone. You can add in a couple different cards here that you think would be really good. And I'm sure there are better options than what I did out there. I'm sure there's ways to build in more combos. I'm just not a huge combo player, so I tend to avoid building decks like this. But this just seemed like too much of a juicy opportunity to build. So I had to jump in there and build this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll put a deck list or a semi-deck list. It won't be complete because I'm not going to rebuild the whole thing. But maybe we'll put it down in the description below so that way everyone can kind of take a look at it if you're interested in building it. If you do build it and you go play with it, please, 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 please let me know how it goes. First time I played this in a 4-player game, I showed one of my buddies, and he just kind of laughed at me and just said, you know, you build some weird stuff. And I said, yes, I do. But I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's not a traditional deck tech. I know there's a lot fancier ones out there. There's much better people than building decks than I can. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a good evening. Hope you have a good day. Hope you have a good week at work. Whenever you're watching this, thank you for stopping in. And make sure you jump in and see us on Whatnot. Make sure you see us or go check out our Patreon. Make sure you go check out our Facebook. All those fun things. I hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe, everyone.